Taurus, welcome to a tarot reading from November 6th through the 12th. It's Raina here. So, yeah, I'm doing one of these weekly things. And don't mind the train. I'll probably pause this if it's too... And there's your card. Oops, two came out. Okay. Let's pick an outcome card. Wow, you have a lot of major arcana cards. Well, it's not surprising because you just had that powerful blue moon in your sign. So maybe there's this aftermath effect of things that have been coming up for you. Whenever there's a full moon, we're looking at it, and it's in the opposite sign of yours. I mean, when the opposite sign, if it's in your sign or your opposite sign, then it's going to bring up the areas of relationship when it comes to you versus another person and their needs versus meeting your own needs. And so that can be very helpful. So what that can entail is that you are dealing with, in this particular case, the full moon was in your sign. So you may have realized that there are things you need to change about yourself, Taurus, that maybe you've been a little bit stubborn to change, since Taurus does have a tendency, a reputation of being stubborn. I have Taurus rising, so I'm right there with you, and I get it. It's not always easy. It's not always desirable. You may not want to change. You might not see the reason to change. And yet another person may see your behavior as somehow infringing on their rights. An example, a big example, especially with this particular full moon, was surrounding relationships and in particular, in relationships, I should say, freedom. And if you're somebody who is very possessive and the other person is tired of the jealousy, is tired of the expectations that you hold with them, and they feel smothered or they can't do what they want, you may have had to kind of admit that that's something that's going on within yourself. And you may have your own reasons why you're like this, and they may come from trauma in the past. And it doesn't make you a bad person if you have these kinds of immediate responses to that particular situation, but it's just realizing that it's not serving you, it's not serving the relationship. The other thing that could come up is that you realize what your needs are, that you're being too codependent, that you are allowing somebody else to kind of control you or what have you, and you're going to take more time for yourself and not be so submerged with that other person in that relationship that you forget who you are. So it could work out either way. And some of these cards, they really do go around the issue of relationships. So that's why I'm going to focus on it. So we have here as the heart of the matter, the 10 of Cups. This is the marriage card. And that's what the 7th house represents, is the marriage house. The, significant other, whether you're legally married or not. And just this idea of what is marriage, what is commitment, and, happily ever after, your family. This is the card of family harmony. So this can be like that this is front and center of what is important to you right now, Taurus. Something may have come up that feels threatening to that. We have in the past position the 8 of Swords. In some cases with the 8 of Swords, you may feel like you don't have your own voice, that you're kind of like trapped. But you're trapped by your own thoughts ultimately. That is what's keeping you from the sense of freedom that you are craving. And only you can free yourself from that. You can't look to anybody else to grant you your freedom. So perhaps this is something that you're going to do to take the initiative to make it happen. And you have what it takes to change this scenario. And you may not even be thinking of it in terms of a significant other, but for your family. Perhaps your family has been put through hell by your unhappy relationship, and you need to do something about it. I know it can feel really overwhelming to make major changes in your life, but this is a time when Uranus being in your sign for years, I mean, Uranus is going to be here for several more years, and it's going to shake up this area of your life in the first house of the self. So you're going to, whatever it is that you consider your sense of self is going to change radically. You may not even recognize yourself physically by the time this transit is over with. You might be doing a lot of things differently that change your physical appearance. Whether you're trying to improve it or not is beside the point. It's like, to me, it's like your lifestyle changes, and therefore everything changes, including your physical appearance. But one of the big keywords of Uranus is freedom. And also another one is nonconformity. Taurus tends to be a fairly conservative sign. You tend to do things pretty much by the book, and you're not like, I'm talking about just the sign itself, not if you have other influences. You might have the moon in Aquarius or something that makes you stand out, be a little bit quirky, different. But in general, Taurus is one of those signs that is kind of like, is not really a risk taker when it comes to how, they don't want to necessarily stand out and be different and things like that. But this is a time in your life when that might change, and that would be really good for you because of what you represent and because of what Uranus represents, is that you may be much more committed to freedom than you ever have been. And it may feel a little bit strange because you are typically not like that, but in the long run, it could work to your advantage, where you can, explore new territory. And that might be solo for some of you for this transit, or at least a portion of it, especially while the sun is in close range to Uranus in degrees. The higher message is the Death card, and this is something that is always something that you have to learn, is when something is over, that it's over. You tend to just kind of want to hold on to things. Maybe it's, more than just relationships. It could be anything in life that you don't want it to end. You don't like change, and that means that you stick with something. Could be a friendship sometimes as well, and you don't have anything in common anymore, but you don't want to let it go, or an old pair of jeans or something, who knows. The bottom line is that you have to be willing to make space for change so that you can have the kind of well-rounded life that you want to have. Not have a narrow existence, but have a much more expansive existence. And also, so that you don't waste time. So, I can't believe how many people they say, I should have left this person 10 years ago. And it's like, my God, 10 years is a long time to stay with somebody that you don't want. But they were still in that sense of denial. Or even if they weren't really in denial and they knew exactly what they were dealing with, they just didn't want to make that change. And, sometimes you have to. What crosses you is the Empress. This is your card, and so this is the card of the Earth Mother, the creative person, the person who is, the lover, just the mother archetype, and love itself. And so this is, this is something to make sure that you do not do, which is turning your back on love, not being aware of when something is not only like not love, but is turning into something very negative. But also the Empress in reverse can be, that's how I'm reading it, can be overly materialistic, using their feminine wiles to get what they want. Can Taurians be like this? Absolutely. Because you may think that everything has a price, that everything is a commodity, and you just are trading on one thing for another. And this is something that can lead to relationships that the Eight of Swords represent, which can be kind of nightmare situations where you cannot get out of your own head. Maybe that other person is preying on your insecurities and kind of gaslighting you and making you question your own sanity. So you have to be able to really, value love for itself. If you have Venus and Taurus as well, Taurus, this can make you even more sensual, and that can create a real connection to the material as being part of the values that you deal with when it comes to relationships. Like, okay, is this person spending a lot of money on me? Are they doing this? And I understand why people think like that, because we're conditioned to, and also some people are coming to various things, even to relationships, from that finite, that kind of concrete way perspective. But it is not, this is where the spiritual kicks in, and where you have to realize the difference between, materialism, the temporary nature of it, the way that it is not having to do with the heart, and, how the value of love. And it's interesting because, this is interesting. Like, how did I get these two cards? I'm trying to think about when I put these out. Were these stuck together? That's strange, because when I put down the Emperor, it seemed like, well, I think these came out together, so I'm going to read them as what's coming in, and it could be the advice. So we have the hierophant, which is connected to your sign. We also have the Three of Swords, which is a card of heartbreak. So what I would say about this, Taurus, is that understanding, what came into my head right now was about betraying your heart. So with the hierophant can be about marriage being, this is what you're supposed to do and all this stuff. And if you're the kind of person who feels that you have to conform to what society tells you about a particular thing, then you're going to feel that sense of betraying, what your true desires are. The Three of Swords can be a card of feeling a sense of rejection. And the rejection, I almost feel like the rejection is coming from what you were conditioned to believe about life. Is that you may have believed that if you, I think of the Hierophant as religious training. If you were told that, God hates divorce, or and you have to be the perfect wife, for instance, because I'm looking, most of my viewers are going to be women, and the Empress is in a difficult position. That could be you in kind of this turmoil. I feel like this is about understanding like what teachings benefit your life and what teachings create more of a sense of you being in the wrong. Because, sometimes staying with somebody that is demeaning you, I don't think that is really loving oneself and being, and honoring oneself. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. If you're staying in a relationship because of some kind of teachings, make sure that they are benefiting your life and not causing you more emotional pain. Because sometimes we do get together with somebody for a season, but that doesn't mean that we're meant to be with them forever. It just doesn't work out that way sometimes, even when we try. But it can't be a one-way street. The other person has to try too, right? And the outcome is the Emperor, and this is connected to Aries, in case there's an Aries person in your life. But I think of you as being large and in charge, being, kind of getting yourself together, being in control of your life. So really, something may have thrown you into a tailspin. Again, we're coming off of that full moon in your sign, and maybe things were unearthed or brought to the light that were not what you wanted to see. But now that it's here, you can deal with them, and after the initial shock may have worn off, or even if it wasn't pure shock, that feeling of something has changed, something has shifted, you feel more in control of your life. And that is the important thing, because when you feel in control of your life, you're not afraid to make change. It's very hard to make change when you feel out of control. That's what people don't understand when they're being kind of simplistic about giving advice. Oh, you should just change. You should leave that relationship. But if you feel like your life is just kind of very chaotic as it is, it's not that easy to just go and do something different. So, in any case, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like a private reading, I'm primarily an astrologer. The link is below for my list of reading types. And thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.